Tonight, we will tell you a story whispered across 5 millennia, a tale of stone and stars, of power and eternity. You will learn how ancient pharaohs, believing themselves living gods, sought to defy death itself by building monuments that touched the sky. We will journey to the heart of the desert, to the very bedrock of a civilization driven by the promise of an afterlife, and uncover the secrets of the Great Pyramid of Giza, the last standing wonder of the ancient world. You will discover how it was conceived, how it was built, block by colossal block, and what mysteries still lie hidden within its silent chambers, enduring as a testament to human ambition and faith. Oh, and if you enjoy these stories, please consider giving this video a like and subscribing to the channel. New sleep stories arrive here regularly. All right, find a comfortable spot, allow yourself to take a deep, calming breath, and feel your body sink into the quiet comfort around you. The story of the Great Pyramid begins not with a single pharaoh, but with the very dawn of a civilization along the fertile banks of the Nile, where life and belief intertwined in profound ways. Imagine a land born of a great river, the Nile, whose annual floods granted life and fertility amidst the endless sands. This was ancient Egypt, a civilization that emerged over 5,000 years ago, unique in its grandeur and beliefs. Here, under the relentless sun, people lived, worked, and dreamed of eternity, and at the center of their world stood the pharaoh. His throne was the place from which he managed the harmony of the universe. The pharaoh was a living god, the embodiment of Horus, son of Osiris, and the intermediary between the mortal world and the world of the gods. His breath was the law. His word was destiny. His health and well-being directly influenced the prosperity of all of Egypt, the harvest, the tranquility of the Nile, and protection from enemies. Every Egyptian believed that the pharaoh was the pillar upon which their world rested, the guarantor of Ma'at, cosmic order, and justice. Therefore, his life was sacred, and his death was the beginning of the greatest of all journeys, requiring monumental preparation. For the ancient Egyptians, death was a transition into another form. The death of the pharaoh was not an end, but a passage into the Duat, the underworld, from where he would continue to reign as Osiris. For a successful transition and eternal rule, the pharaoh required an eternal dwelling. From this deep faith, from the yearning for immortality, the grandiose structures of ancient Egypt were born, the pyramids. In the 3rd millennium BCE, when Egypt was just beginning to take its great form, a pharaoh named Djoser ruled. He was the first ruler of the 3rd dynasty, and his reign became a time of unprecedented change and flourishing. Before Djoser, pharaohs were buried in mastabas, rectangular structures of mud brick with flat roofs resembling huge benches. Djoser, striving to surpass his predecessors, desired something greater, something that would forever etch his name in stone and secure his place among the gods. Onto the historical stage stepped a man whose name became synonymous with genius, Imhotep. He was not just a vizier, the chief minister and right hand of the pharaoh, but also a high priest, a skilled physician, an astronomer, and most importantly for us, the first known architect in history. Imhotep was a man of incredible intellect who dared to challenge tradition. He proposed something radically new to Djoser, a tomb built not of perishable brick, but of eternal stone. And not just one mastaba, but a series of diminishing mastabas stacked one on top of the other, creating a stepped structure that would reach for the sky. Thus, the idea of the step pyramid was born. The site chosen for this colossal project was Saqqara, a vast necropolis west of the ancient capital of Memphis. Here, on the dry desert land, Imhotep began the work that would forever change the face of architecture. The construction of the step pyramid was an unprecedented challenge. Before this, stone was used for cladding or small elements, but never to create entire buildings of such scale. Imhotep and his workers began by erecting a huge mastaba of limestone blocks, then expanded it on all sides, building new, smaller mastabas on top, like steps. It was a process of trial and error, of constant learning and adaptation. Masons learned to shape enormous blocks, and workers learned to move them without the use of wheels, which were not yet known in Egypt for such purposes. They used ramps, levers, ropes, and, most importantly, the strength of thousands of human hands, driven by faith and discipline. Each stone, weighing several tons, was lifted and placed with incredible precision. When completed, the step pyramid rose to a height of over 60 meters. It consisted of 6 steps, each symbolizing the pharaoh's ascent to the stars, to the gods. It was not just a tomb, but an entire funerary complex, surrounded by a wall of polished limestone imitating the reliefs and colonnades of palaces, with false doors and inner courtyards designed for rituals that were to ensure Djoser's immortality. Beneath the pyramid itself was a complex system of tunnels and chambers, including the pharaoh's burial chamber, lined with granite and surrounded by a labyrinth of galleries where vessels and treasures necessary for his eternal journey were stored. For the first time in human history, such a monumental structure of stone was created. It became the embodiment of his divinity, a bridge between the earthly and the celestial. Imhotep, through his genius, not only built a great tomb, but also laid the foundation for all subsequent pyramids. He showed that stone could be not just a building material, but a tool for expressing grandiose ideas, for creating eternal symbols. His step pyramid became the benchmark, the starting point for future generations of architects and pharaohs who sought to surpass it, but always relied on Imhotep's principles. It was the first of the great pyramids, the harbinger of a golden age when the sky of Egypt would be adorned with the most massive and mysterious structures ever built by humankind. This was the beginning of an era when pharaohs, inspired by Djoser and Imhotep, began their own race for immortality, striving to erect even more perfect and majestic monuments to their eternal power. The step pyramid of Djoser, standing in Saqqara, remains to this day a silent witness to how faith, genius, and the labor of millions could change the landscape and leave behind a legacy that continues to capture the imagination. After Djoser, another great pharaoh, Sneferu, the founder of the 4th dynasty, ascended to the throne. He was not just a ruler, but a relentless builder whose obsession with architectural perfection changed the face of Egyptian architecture forever. Sneferu inherited from his predecessors a deep belief in the necessity of creating a magnificent abode for his soul, which would ensure his eternal rule in the afterlife. But his ambitions went beyond simply replicating existing forms. He dreamed of a pyramid with smooth, perfectly straight sides, pointing directly to the sky, symbolizing the sun's rays upon which the pharaoh's soul could ascend to the gods and achieve immortality. This new design required unprecedented engineering solutions and an innovative approach that had to be developed from scratch. Sneferu's first grand project was the pyramid at Meidum, located about 100 kilometers south of modern Cairo. Initially, it was designed as a step pyramid in the style of Djoser, but the pharaoh ordered it to be rebuilt, giving it smooth, sloping sides. It was a bold architectural experiment, an attempt to transform the stepped form into a true pyramid. The builders erected an outer casing, filling the gaps between the steps to create smooth faces. However, despite all the titanic efforts, this pyramid faced serious structural problems. Perhaps due to too steep an angle of inclination or the instability of the fill, a significant portion of the outer casing collapsed, leaving behind only the core of the stepped structure we see today. This partial collapse was a harsh but invaluable lesson for Egyptian engineers, showing them the limits of the technology of the time and the absolute necessity for more careful calculation and planning. The failure at Meidum, however, did not break Sneferu's spirit. He was determined to achieve his goal and immediately began a new project, this time in Dashur, another important necropolis located south of Cairo, where the desert winds carried sand and ancient secrets. Here, the construction of the so-called Bent Pyramid, or the Southern Pyramid of Dashur, began. Its name speaks for itself. The pyramid's walls have two different angles of inclination, making its silhouette truly unique. Initially, the builders began erecting it at a very steep angle, about 55 degrees, similar to what may have caused the problems at Meidum. However, when the construction reached about half its height, the engineers, likely realizing the potential threat of collapse or encountering clear signs of instability in the structure itself, made the unprecedented decision to change the angle of inclination. They reduced it to a safer 43 degrees. This sharp change gave the pyramid its unique bent appearance. The bent pyramid is a living testament to the process of trial and error that the ancient Egyptians went through and their willingness to adapt. This was not a sign of incompetence, but rather proof of their outstanding ability to learn from their mistakes, adapt, and implement new knowledge directly during the construction process, literally rebuilding on the fly. They weren't just building, they were inventing, testing theories and practice, and each new stone became part of this grand process of learning and evolution. The lessons learned from Meidum and the Bent Pyramid led to a triumph. Sneferu, not satisfied with compromise and yearning for absolute perfection, began the construction of a third great pyramid, also in Dashur, just a few kilometers north of the Bent Pyramid. This new structure was named the Northern Pyramid of Dashur, but today it is known as the Red Pyramid. It got its name from the reddish hue of the limestone from which it was built, especially noticeable at sunset, when the stone seems to glow with an inner fire. The Red Pyramid became the culmination of Sneferu's engineering quests. In its design, the builders took into account all previous mistakes and immediately established a gentler and therefore more stable angle of inclination of 43 degrees. This allowed them to erect it with perfect smooth sides from base to summit, without any changes or compromises in the process. The Red Pyramid is not just another tomb, it is the first true pyramid in human history, with perfectly smooth, straight faces, rising as a symbol of achieved mastery. Its construction was the final confirmation that the ancient Egyptians had perfected the art of erecting these monumental structures. It became the model, the prototype for all subsequent pyramids, including the one that would be built by his son, which would become the greatest of them all. Sneferu, thanks to his 3 great projects, erected more pyramidal volume than any other pharaoh in the history of Egypt, leaving behind a colossal legacy. His reign became a golden age of architectural experimentation, a time when apparent mistakes were turned into invaluable lessons and ambitions into engineering masterpieces. He did not just build tombs. He laid a strong and unshakable foundation for an entire era that would reach its zenith with the creation of the most famous wonder of the world, which still holds its many secrets. Thus, the path to the Great Pyramid of Giza was paved not only with millions of tons of stone, but also with decades of trials, errors, and brilliant discoveries, embodied in the tireless pursuit of perfection by Pharaoh Sneferu. And so, after Sneferu had completed his bold projects, when his red pyramid rose as the first true smooth-sided structure, his son, Pharaoh Khufu, ascended to the throne of Egypt. He inherited not only the crown, but also the knowledge accumulated by his father, how to build with stone, how to manage vast masses of people and materials, how to bring the most audacious architectural designs to life. However, Khufu's ambitions were even grander. He did not simply aim to repeat his father's success. He wished to surpass it, to create something so monumental and eternal that it would challenge time itself, become an enduring symbol of his divine rule, and, most importantly, ensure his soul's unimpeded journey into the afterlife. Khufu believed that his pyramid should be not just a tomb, but a gateway to eternity, a direct path to the stars, connecting the earthly kingdom with the celestial one. It was not merely a structure, but an embodiment of his faith in immortality, his personal ladder to the stars, and its ancient name was Horizon of Khufu. For the pharaoh, the pyramid was the key to his rebirth, a place where his Ka, life force, and Ba, soul, would find peace and be able to ascend to the gods. Every stone was to serve this purpose, every chamber to hold his secrets, every corridor to guide his path. The location for this wonder was not chosen by chance. The Giza Plateau, rising above the western bank of the Nile, offered ideal conditions for such massive construction. Its solid limestone bedrock provided stability capable of withstanding the colossal weight of millions of tons of stone. Proximity to the Nile River was vital, as it was by its waters that building materials were to be delivered. Huge blocks of limestone from the quarries of Tura on the eastern bank, as well as granite for the inner chambers, brought from Aswan, hundreds of kilometers to the south. The choice of this site directly testified to the foresight and careful planning that preceded the start of the work. Preparing for the construction of this mountain of stone took years. It was not an instantaneous decision, but the result of long and painstaking work. First, extensive surveying was required to perfectly level the site where the pyramid was to stand. Then, the quarrying of stone had to be organized, which in itself was a gigantic task. Millions of blocks, each weighing several tons, had to be cut from the rock with astonishing precision, using primitive tools of copper and diorite. Individual blocks intended for the casing had to be polished to a mirror shine, so that the pyramid would gleam under the scorching Egyptian sun, reflecting its rays. This required not only a huge amount of materials, but also an unprecedented mobilization of human resources. Thousands, and by some estimates, tens of thousands of workers, skilled artisans, stonemasons, builders, as well as ordinary peasants engaged in work during the annual Nile flood when their fields were inundated, had to be organized, fed, and housed. It was a meticulously planned system, resembling a giant mechanism where each part performed its function. Each team had its tasks, each overseer his duties, and all of this was coordinated centrally under the strict supervision of the pharaoh's vizier, who was responsible for the entire project. It was during this period, as Khufu's vision began to take its first barely perceptible shape on the Giza Plateau, that the foundations of the greatest wonder of the ancient world were laid. The Pyramid of Khufu was to be not only the tallest structure of its time, but also the most precise, the most durable, the most majestic. It was a project that demanded not only engineering genius, but also deep faith, for it was created for eternity. In every line, in every angle, in every carefully placed stone, the idea of the pharaoh's immortality, his unbreakable connection to the divine order, was to be embedded. This was not just a construction project. It was an act of creation designed to capture the power of Khufu in stone for thousands of years. And although it may seem to us to be just construction, for the ancient Egyptians, it was a sacred ritual, the fulfillment of a divine destiny. Every worker, from the vizier to the simple porter, was part of this grandiose plan, contributing to the creation of an abode for the pharaoh's soul, which was to ascend to the stars and become one of the gods. Imagine the bustle on the plateau, the sounds of hammers, the creaking of ropes, the shouts of overseers, the dust rising in the dry desert air, and the feeling of being part of something truly great, something that would transcend your own life. This was the creation not just of a structure, but of a legend that would live for centuries. The construction of such a colossus as the Pyramid of Khufu required an organization previously unseen in human history, colossal efforts, and unprecedented coordination. This was not the work of a few hundred people laboring in isolation. It was an entire nation working towards a single monumental goal, united by deep faith and the unwavering will of their divine ruler. Contrary to popular but mistaken myths, the Great Pyramid was not built by slaves languishing under the whips of overseers. Its builders were thousands of free Egyptians, skilled artisans, experienced engineers, masterful architects, proficient stonemasons, as well as numerous farmers who came to the Giza Plateau during the annual Nile floods when their fields were submerged by fertile waters. They offered their labor in the name of the pharaoh, seeing it not as a burden, but as a sacred duty, contributing to the prosperity of their country and ensuring the salvation of their ruler's soul, and thus their own. Everyone was aware of their involvement in something eternal, something that would surpass their own lives. On the Giza Plateau, next to the construction site, a whole city grew, specifically designed to house these thousands of workers. Archaeological excavations in recent decades have uncovered and allowed for a detailed study of the remains of this large-scale settlement, which included vast bakeries, capable of producing bread for tens of thousands of eaters, large breweries supplying the main beverage of the time, and well-equipped medical posts where workers received skilled assistance. In the discovered builders' cemeteries, skeletons were found with signs of well-healed fractures and other injuries, which attests to the high level of medical care and concern for the workers. These people received regular and sufficient food, stable shelter, and necessary clothing, working in shifts organized into clear brigades, each with its own unique name, like regiments in an army or squads in an expedition. Thousands of people worked simultaneously, like a huge, well-coordinated, and constantly moving mechanism, creating something that seemed impossible. The most complex and labor-intensive stage of construction was the quarrying, transportation, and precise placement of millions of tons of stone. The main building material, millions of blocks of local limestone that make up the bulk of the pyramid, was quarried directly on the Giza Plateau in vast quarries located very close to the construction site. Workers used primitive but effective tools, copper chisels for cutting, and strong wooden wedges that were hammered into natural rock fissures and then soaked with water. The swelling wood created enormous pressure, breaking off huge, sometimes multi-ton blocks from the rock. For processing harder rocks, such as diorite or granite, spherical dolerite pounders were used, very hard stones with which granite blocks were manually chipped and polished like with giant hammers. The white, fine-grained limestone for the outer casing, which gave the pyramid a shining, almost dazzling appearance under the desert sun, was delivered from the renowned quarries of Tura, located on the eastern bank of the Nile, opposite Giza. The pink granite for the inner chambers, including the pharaoh's burial chamber and his massive sarcophagus, was brought from distant Aswan, located hundreds of kilometers south of the plateau. These massive blocks, some weighing tens of tons, were loaded onto huge wooden barges and transported along the Nile during the annual high water level when the river flooded, turning into a wide water artery. To facilitate delivery as much as possible, ancient engineers likely created a complex system of temporary canals and branching harbors that allowed the barges to approach the construction site as closely as possible, shortening the land route. After the stone blocks reached the Giza Plateau, they were dragged up specially built ramps. The exact design of these giant ramps remains one of the greatest mysteries and a subject of scientific debate among Egyptologists and engineers. Some researchers suggest that a single long straight ramp was used, which was gradually built up and extended as the pyramid grew, becoming steeper. Others believe that a system of spiral ramps was used, which wrapped around the structure, ascending up its sides. There is also a theory of an internal ramp running inside the pyramid itself, which would have allowed blocks to be lifted without external visibility. Most likely, the ancient builders used a combination of these methods, adapting them to different stages of construction. The blocks were moved on massive wooden sleds, with the path being moistened with water or silt to significantly reduce friction and facilitate sliding. Hundreds of workers, using strong ropes, pulled these sleds, applying the synchronized force of their bodies to the rhythmic shouts of overseers who served to coordinate their efforts, lifting and precisely placing millions of blocks at height required incredible precision, deep knowledge of geometry, and engineering ingenuity. As the pyramid grew, each new level required lifting stones to ever greater heights. Workers used a system of levers, powerful wooden beams, and possibly sand embankments to lift and move the blocks, gradually placing supports under them and moving them upwards. Then the blocks were fitted together with astonishing precision, creating perfectly flat and smooth surfaces. The limestone blocks of the outer casing were so tightly fitted together that it was impossible to insert even the thinnest knife blade between them, which is a testament to the supreme skill and incredible patience of the ancient builders. The top of the pyramid, crowning this colossal structure, was supposedly capped with a pyramidion, a small but significant stone that may have been covered with shining gold or precious electrum, an alloy of gold and silver. This pyramidion symbolized the connection of the earthly monument with the sun, the god Ra, and eternity, being the finishing touch to a structure designed to connect the earthly kingdom with the divine. Every carved block, every carefully measured recess, every meter of ramp was part of a grand design, embodying not only outstanding engineering skill, but also the deepest faith in the afterlife and the immortality of the pharaoh, who, according to the Egyptians, was to become a star among stars, shining forever in the night sky. This monumental construction process, which lasted for about 20 years according to modern scholars, transformed the desert plateau of Giza, turning it from a lifeless area into the most impressive architectural complex of the ancient world. The Pyramid of Khufu became not just a tomb, but a living symbol of power, deep faith, and humanity's inexhaustible striving for eternity. It was and remains a silent but eloquent testimony to what a civilization united by one great sacred purpose is capable of, and it has withstood the sands of time and the winds of oblivion, continuing to whisper its ancient secrets for millennia. The exterior of the Great Pyramid, though awe-inspiring, was merely the shell that protected the profound secrets held within its colossal heart. For the ancient Egyptians, the true essence of the monument lay not in its outer appearance, but in the intricate labyrinth of passages and chambers designed to safeguard the pharaoh's journey into eternity. This internal architecture represented a sacred path, a carefully orchestrated transition from the world of the living to the realm of the gods. To access these hidden spaces, one would have originally entered through an opening high on the pyramid's northern face, a discreet entrance now often overshadowed by the lower, forced entry made centuries later by Caliph al-Mamun. From this original entry, a long, narrow descending passage sloped steeply downwards, piercing the pyramid's solid limestone core. This passage, precise in its alignment, continued deep into the bedrock beneath the structure, culminating in an unfinished, rough-hewn, subterranean chamber. Some scholars believe this chamber was the pharaoh's initial intended burial place, later abandoned as the architectural ambition grew. Or perhaps it served as a symbolic false tomb, meant to deceive potential intruders. Its raw, unadorned surfaces stand in stark contrast to the refined masonry found higher up, offering a truly raw glimpse into the initial stages of construction or a change in design. Above this subterranean realm, about 60 feet from the original entrance, A critical junction marked a turning point. Here, the narrow descending passage met another, even more significant pathway, the ascending passage. This passage, equally constrained and requiring one to stoop low, rose upwards into the very body of the pyramid. Its climb was not merely physical, it was a symbolic ascent towards the heavens, guiding the pharaoh's spirit towards its ultimate destination. The ascending passage eventually leveled out, leading directly to a horizontal corridor that stretched eastward, ending abruptly at a chamber known today as the Queen's Chamber. Despite its modern designation, this room was almost certainly not intended for a queen. Its purpose remains a subject of considerable debate among Egyptologists. It is smaller than the king's chamber, with a distinctive gabled roof formed by carefully angled blocks of limestone designed to distribute the immense weight pressing down from above. The chamber's floor is rough, and its walls show signs of having been left unfinished. Two narrow shafts, often erroneously called air shafts, extend from its northern and southern walls, rising upwards into the pyramid's masonry, their purpose still shrouded in mystery. Some theories suggest it was a serdab, a chamber intended to house a statue of the king's Ka, his life force, allowing it to interact with the offerings presented in the mortuary temple. Others propose it was a symbolic resting place for the king's internal organs, or perhaps simply an early discarded burial chamber, much like the one below ground. The cool, dry air within this chamber carries the faint, earthy scent of ancient stone, a silent witness to millennia of unanswered questions. The true marvel of the pyramid's interior, however, lay beyond the horizontal passage, back at the point where the ascending passage joined. Here, the passage abruptly transformed into the awe-inspiring Grand Gallery. This colossal corridor, over 150 feet long and nearly 28 feet high, is a breathtaking testament to ancient Egyptian engineering prowess. Its walls rise upwards in a series of 7 precisely corbelled courses, each layer of stone projecting slightly inward beyond the one below, creating a majestic, tapering ceiling. The polished surfaces of the limestone blocks reflect the dim light, creating an illusion of infinite depth. Along the base of the gallery run 2 ramps, each with a series of 27 slots, the purpose of which is still debated, but they likely played a crucial role in the construction or sealing process, perhaps holding massive wooden beams. The sheer scale and precision of the Grand Gallery are staggering. It feels less like a passageway and more like a monumental hall, designed to impress and elevate, a solemn processional route leading to the pharaoh's final resting place. The echo of footsteps within its vast space accentuates its solemn grandeur, a powerful sensory reminder of the scale of human ambition. At the very end of the Grand Gallery, a short, low passage leads into the heart of the pyramid, the King's Chamber. This chamber is a masterpiece of ancient Egyptian masonry, constructed entirely from massive blocks of red Aswan granite, transported hundreds of miles upstream from the quarries. These blocks, some weighing over 80 tons, fit together with astonishing precision, forming a perfectly rectangular room measuring approximately 34 feet long, 17 feet wide, and 19 feet high. The chamber's flat ceiling is formed by 9 enormous granite slabs, each weighing around 50 tons, resting on the side walls. Above these ceiling slabs are a series of 5 relieving chambers, ingeniously designed to redistribute the immense weight of the pyramid above, preventing the ceiling of the king's chamber from collapsing. The uppermost of these relieving chambers is capped with a gabled roof, a final massive structural element ensuring the integrity of the burial chamber. The only object ever found within the king's chamber is a large lidless sarcophagus, also carved from a single block of red granite. It is slightly too wide to have been brought through the narrow ascending passage, meaning it must have been placed within the chamber during the pyramid's construction. The sarcophagus is empty, a silent enigma. Was Khufu's body placed within it and later plundered? Or was it never used, perhaps due to a change in plans or rituals? The cool, smooth granite of the sarcophagus offers no answers, only the enduring mystery of its emptiness. The internal layout of the Great Pyramid, with its ascending and descending passages, its enigmatic Queen's Chamber, the grandiosity of the Grand Gallery, and the solemnity of the King's Chamber, speaks volumes about the ancient Egyptians' profound belief system. Every angle, every stone, every passage was imbued with symbolic meaning, guiding the pharaoh's soul through the various stages of rebirth and transformation. The journey through the pyramid was a metaphorical passage through the underworld and into the heavens, ensuring the pharaoh's eternal life and his ability to continue governing Egypt from the divine realm. The precision of the construction, even in the darkest, most inaccessible parts, underscores the absolute dedication to this sacred purpose. It was a physical manifestation of their cosmic order, a bridge between the mortal and the immortal, designed to last for all time and ensure the pharaoh's eternal reign. The pyramid thus became not merely a tomb, but a complex machine for resurrection, a monumental testament to a civilization's unwavering faith in the afterlife and its ruler's divine connection. The Great Pyramid, with its intricate internal passages, was not an isolated monument. It stood as the beating heart of an expansive sacred complex, a meticulously planned funerary landscape designed to facilitate the pharaoh's eternal journey and ensure his perpetual rebirth. This sprawling plateau, now known as Giza, was a grand stage for the divine transition, where earthly rituals met cosmic aspirations. Every structure, every pathway served a precise, symbolic function, echoing the deep beliefs of ancient Egyptian civilization in the continuity of life beyond death. Immediately adjacent to the eastern face of Khufu's pyramid stood the mortuary temple. This was not a place of burial, but a vibrant hub of daily ritual and remembrance. Here, priests would perform ceremonies, offer daily provisions of food and drink to the pharaoh's ka, his life force, and maintain his spiritual presence. The temple was built of fine Tura limestone, its walls likely adorned with vibrant reliefs depicting Khufu's reign, his triumphs, and his journey among the gods. Imagine the solemn processions, the hushed prayers echoing through its grand halls, the rich scent of incense mingling with the dry desert air, all dedicated to sustaining the divine king in the afterlife, ensuring his perpetual well-being. This temple connected directly to the pyramid, creating a seamless transition from the world of the living to the realm of the deceased. From the mortuary temple, a long enclosed causeway stretched eastward, descending gently towards the Nile Valley. This wasn't merely a path, it was a sacred processional route, a symbolic bridge connecting the desert plateau, the realm of the dead, with the fertile lands and the river, the source of life. Along its length, The causeway was probably covered, protecting the sacred rituals from the gaze of the profane and enhancing the sense of solemn progression. Its walls, too, would have been decorated with scenes of the pharaoh's life and his divine destiny, guiding the soul and inspiring the living. This journey from the valley temple by the river to the pyramid's base mirrored the pharaoh's passage from earthly existence to his final, eternal resting place within the colossal stone mountain. At the eastern end of the causeway, closer to the Nile, lay the valley temple. This was the entry point to the entire funerary complex, the place where the pharaoh's body would have arrived by boat from the royal palace or from Memphis, the ancient capital. Here, purification rituals were performed, preparing the royal remains for entombment. It was a place of cleansing and transformation, where the earthly body was sanctified before its final ascent to the pyramid. The Valley Temple for Khufu's complex is largely lost to time, but fragments suggest its grandeur, crafted from durable granite and limestone, designed to withstand the river's seasonal floods and the passage of millennia. Surrounding the Great Pyramid, and indeed across the wider Giza Plateau, were numerous other structures, each contributing to the funerary landscape. To the east of Khufu's pyramid, you would find 3 smaller pyramids, often referred to as the Queen's Pyramids. These were the burial places for his most important queens and possibly other high-ranking members of the royal family. Their presence underscored the pharaoh's central position, surrounded by his closest kin, even in death, ensuring their shared eternity. These pyramids, though modest in comparison to the Great Pyramid, were still significant stone monuments, reflecting the immense resources and belief dedicated to royal burials. Beyond these, the plateau was dotted with rows of mastabas, rectangular flat-top tombs with sloping sides, belonging to high officials, nobles, and members of the royal court. To be buried near the pharaoh was an immense privilege, a way to share in his divine favor and ensure one's own afterlife. These tombs, sometimes arranged in neat streets, formed an entire necropolis, a city of the dead mirroring the living cities along the Nile. Each mastaba contained a burial chamber below ground and a chapel above, where offerings could be made to the deceased. The sheer number of these tombs speaks volumes about the hierarchical nature of Egyptian society and the profound desire to partake in the pharaoh's eternal glory. Also crucial to the complex were the boat pits, discovered near the pyramid's base. One of these, uncovered in the 1950s, contained a disassembled cedar wood boat, meticulously preserved for thousands of years. This was not an ordinary vessel. It was a solar bark, intended to carry the pharaoh's soul alongside the sun god Ra on his daily journey across the heavens. The belief was that the pharaoh, upon his death, would join Ra, aiding him in his cosmic voyage and ensuring the sun's rebirth each morning. These boats were not just symbolic. They were fully functional vessels, demonstrating the advanced craftsmanship of the ancient Egyptians and their profound understanding of the afterlife as an active, continuous existence. As you gaze across the Giza Plateau, you would also see the magnificent Great Sphinx. Though it was built by Khufu's son, Pharaoh Khafre, for his own adjacent pyramid complex. This colossal limestone statue, with the body of a lion and the head of a human, likely representing Khafre himself, stands as a silent guardian of the necropolis. Its presence solidifies the Giza Plateau as a unified sacred landscape, a testament to the might and divine authority of the Old Kingdom pharaohs. The Sphinx, with its enigmatic gaze, seems to watch over the entire funerary city, a timeless sentinel guarding the secrets of the pharaohs' tombs. This vast, interconnected complex, the pyramid, its temples, causeways, queens' pyramids, mastabas, and boat pits, formed a coherent symbolic universe. It was an earthly manifestation of the cosmic order, a place where the pharaoh's mortality was transcended and his divinity confirmed. The sheer scale and intricate planning of this sacred landscape reveal not just engineering prowess, but a profound spiritual conviction that shaped an entire civilization. Every stone, every passage, every carved relief was a prayer, a ritual, a step on the eternal journey, ensuring that the pharaoh, and through him, all of Egypt, would endure forever. The silence that now hangs over Giza holds the echoes of these ancient rituals, whispering stories of belief, power, and the eternal quest for immortality. Yet, for all its divine purpose and monumental scale, this grand complex, and indeed the Great Pyramid itself, was not built by magic, but by countless human hands. The workforce that brought this vision to life was vast and highly organized, comprising skilled artisans, dedicated laborers, and meticulous administrators. These individuals were not merely a collection of conscripted hands, but a well-fed, well-managed, and highly motivated community, driven by a profound shared belief in the pharaoh's divine authority and the critical importance of his journey to the afterlife for the well-being of all Egypt. To house and sustain this immense population, an entire city arose nearby, a purpose-built settlement that archaeologists refer to as Hayt el Ghurab, or the Wall of the Crow. This was no temporary camp, but a sophisticated permanent establishment meticulously planned and constructed to support the monumental undertaking. Within its sturdy walls, thousands of workers lived, ate, and slept, their lives structured by the demanding rhythm of the construction. Their dwellings were functional, primarily long barracks-like structures designed for communal living, providing shelter from the harsh desert sun and the cool desert nights. You can almost imagine the morning air, thick with the scent of baking bread from the vast bakeries that operated ceaselessly within the city. Archaeological evidence from these bakeries indicates an industrial scale of food production, capable of feeding tens of thousands of people daily. The workers were remarkably well provisioned, a testament to the organizational prowess of the ancient Egyptian administration. They received regular rations of bread and beer, staples of the Egyptian diet, and importantly, a substantial amount of meat, including beef, fish, and fowl, providing the necessary protein and calories for their physically demanding labor. This extensive and consistent provision of food underscores the value placed on the workforce and the strategic importance of the pyramid project. It was understood that a well-nourished worker was a productive worker. Beyond sustenance, the city also featured a rudimentary infirmary, suggesting that health care was provided to ensure the workers' well-being and to minimize disruptions due to injury or illness. This level of care implies a reciprocal relationship between the pharaoh and his people, a sense of collective purpose rather than simple coercion. Life in the Pyramid City was structured with military precision, yet it was not without its moments of respite and communal activity. The days were long, filled with the arduous tasks of quarrying, transporting, and precisely placing millions of stone blocks. The rhythmic sounds of mallets striking stone, the creak of wooden levers, and the shouts of foremen guiding the massive teams would have been constant companions. Yet, after the sun dipped below the horizon, the city would come alive with the sounds of communal meals, storytelling, and perhaps even music. The social hierarchy within the workforce was clearly defined, with skilled artisans and craftsmen holding a higher status than general laborers. Scribes meticulously recorded every detail, from the allocation of rations to the progress of the work, providing an invaluable administrative backbone to the entire enterprise. This detailed record-keeping highlights the sophistication of the ancient Egyptian bureaucracy and their ability to manage a project of unprecedented scale and complexity. The pyramid builders were not an anonymous mass. They were individuals with names, families, and a deep connection to their work. Many were farmers who volunteered during the Nile's inundation season when their fields were submerged, offering their labor as a form of civic and religious duty. Others were permanent, highly specialized craftsmen, stonecutters, masons, carpenters, and engineers whose skills were honed over generations. Their dedication was not born of fear, but of profound religious conviction and a sense of national pride. They believed they were contributing directly to the divine order, ensuring the pharaoh's successful transition to the afterlife, which in turn guaranteed the prosperity and stability of Egypt itself. The construction of the Great Pyramid was thus not merely an engineering feat. It was a societal endeavor, a collective act of faith that united the disparate parts of the kingdom under a single grand vision. The Pyramid City was a living, breathing testament to this shared purpose, a temporary urban center that facilitated the creation of an eternal monument embodying the very spirit of cooperation and devotion that defined ancient Egyptian civilization. It was a place where human ingenuity, organizational skill, and unwavering belief converged to shape the landscape of eternity. The completion of the Great Pyramid for Pharaoh Khufu marked an unparalleled achievement, a testament to the Old Kingdom's engineering prowess and unwavering belief system. For centuries, it stood as the largest man-made structure on Earth, a monumental statement of divine kingship, its polished limestone casing gleaming under the desert sun. Yet, this zenith of pyramid construction was also, in a subtle way, the beginning of its end. The pharaohs who succeeded Khufu, including his son Khafra, who built the second largest pyramid at Giza, and his grandson Menkaura, whose pyramid was significantly smaller, continued the tradition. However, the sheer scale and meticulous craftsmanship of Khufu's monument proved unsustainable. As Egypt transitioned from the 4th dynasty into the 5th and 6th, the pyramids became progressively smaller, less grand in their external appearance, and often less robustly constructed. The once perfectly fitted limestone blocks began to give way to rubble cores faced with finer stone, a practical compromise driven by changing circumstances and dwindling resources. Several factors contributed to this gradual decline. The immense drain on the kingdom's resources, both human and material, to sustain such colossal projects for generations was a significant burden. Maintaining an army of tens of thousands of skilled workers, providing consistent food supplies, adequate housing, and specialized tools transporting millions of tons of stone across vast distances and managing the intricate bureaucracy required for such an undertaking placed enormous continuous pressure on the state's economy. The sheer logistical challenge grew too heavy to bear, repeatedly. Moreover, the nature of pharaonic power itself began to subtly shift. While the pharaoh remained a divine ruler, the influence of powerful nomarchs, or provincial governors, grew steadily. These regional lords began to establish their own, albeit smaller, elaborate tombs within their territories, diverting local resources and loyalty away from the central authority in Memphis. The priesthood, particularly that of the powerful sun god Ra, also gained increasing prominence, influencing religious practices and potentially shifting the focus of the afterlife away from solely monumental tombs for the pharaoh. The belief system, while still centered on the afterlife, may have diversified, with more emphasis placed on internal tomb decoration and the magical power of spells and sacred texts, rather than the sheer mass of external stone. Perhaps most critically, the pyramids, despite their formidable size and initial defenses, proved to be irresistible targets for tomb robbers. Over centuries, these magnificent structures, filled with unimaginable riches intended for the pharaoh's eternal journey, were systematically plundered, their treasures disappearing into the sands. The very scale that made them awe-inspiring also made them conspicuous and vulnerable to those who sought illicit gain. This stark realization, coupled with the changing theological landscape and economic pressures, led to a fundamental shift in funerary practices during the Middle Kingdom and, most notably, the New Kingdom. Instead of colossal pyramids rising majestically from the desert, pharaohs began to favor hidden, rock-cut tombs, meticulously carved deep into the cliffs of remote valleys, such as the famous Valley of the Kings on the west bank of the Nile near ancient Thebes. These tombs, though outwardly modest and often concealed by natural rock formations, were designed for ultimate secrecy and security. Their focus shifted inward, becoming elaborate subterranean labyrinths adorned with intricate wall paintings, detailed hieroglyphic inscriptions, and sacred texts like the pyramid texts, coffin texts, and later, the Book of the Dead. These elaborate internal decorations and potent spells were believed to guide the deceased pharaoh through the perilous underworld, ensuring a successful transition to the afterlife, replacing the need for an overwhelming external monument. The emphasis moved from a visible declaration of power to a hidden protective sanctuary, a silent journey into eternity. Despite this profound evolution in funerary architecture, the Great Pyramid of Khufu, along with its companions at Giza, never lost its profound significance. It remained an enduring symbol of the Old Kingdom's golden age, a testament to the ancient Egyptians' remarkable organizational skills, their deep spiritual convictions, and their unparalleled architectural ambition. For millennia, it stood as a beacon of human achievement, a silent witness to the passage of empires and the shifting sands of time. Even as new dynasties rose and fell and new burial customs emerged, the Great Pyramid continued to dominate the landscape, a stark reminder of a time when pharaohs literally moved mountains to secure their eternal destiny. Its sheer, unyielding presence ensured its legacy, making it a timeless monument that continued to inspire awe and wonder, a silent guardian of secrets stretching across thousands of years. It became more than just a tomb. It was a permanent fixture in the collective memory, a whisper of the pharaoh's power that echoed through every subsequent era, captivating and mystifying all who beheld it. Even as the relentless sands of time swept over the once thriving pyramid cities and newer dynasties rose and fell, the colossal structure on the Giza Plateau stood firm, a silent sentinel of a vanished age. For millennia, it has whispered tales of a civilization that sought to defy mortality itself. And in its enduring, immutable presence, you can still feel the profound echo of those ancient beliefs, reaching across the vast chasm of history. The Great Pyramid, even after centuries of meticulous study and countless expeditions, continues to guard its deepest secrets with an almost defiant silence. Even today, modern technology, far more advanced than anything the ancients could have imagined, reveals hidden voids and unexplored passages within its immense, solid stone heart. You might imagine the thrill of discovery as dedicated scientists use cutting-edge imaging techniques, such as muon tomography, to peer into areas that have remained utterly untouched by human hands for thousands upon thousands of years. These groundbreaking discoveries, like the Scan Pyramid's Big Void, found above the Grand Gallery, strongly suggest there may yet be more chambers or previously unknown corridors awaiting careful exploration. Perhaps even the long-sought true burial place of Pharaoh Khufu, if indeed it was ever intended to be found by mortal eyes. The precise, almost incomprehensible methods used to lift and then meticulously position the millions of heavy stone blocks, each weighing many tons and some reaching 15 tons or more, remain a subject of intense, passionate debate among engineers, archaeologists, and historians worldwide. While numerous theories abound, from elaborate ramp systems to ingenious lever mechanisms or even sophisticated water-based transportation, no single explanation fully accounts for the sheer scale, the astounding precision, and the unparalleled efficiency of the original construction. This ongoing, captivating mystery only deepens the pyramid's profound allure, inviting endless speculation, fostering academic inquiry, and sparking widespread wonder about the lost, forgotten techniques and the sheer organizational genius of its brilliant builders. Beyond its astonishing physical construction, the very purpose of the pyramid itself continues to inspire deep contemplation and scholarly inquiry. While universally understood as a monumental tomb, a sacred vessel designed to facilitate the pharaoh's arduous journey to the eternal afterlife and ensure his divine rebirth, some theories subtly hint at a grander, perhaps more cosmic or esoteric function. Could it have served as a sophisticated astronomical observatory, precisely aligned to celestial events, a vast and enduring calendar marking the passage of time, or even a meticulously organized repository of ancient knowledge and sacred wisdom encoded within its very dimensions and alignments? These profound questions, though often speculative and sometimes bordering on the mystical, add layers of rich intrigue to its silent, majestic grandeur, reminding you that not all ancient wisdom is easily deciphered or fully comprehended by modern minds. As an unparalleled historical monument, the Great Pyramid holds an absolutely unique and revered place in the entire tapestry of human history. It proudly stands as the only remaining wonder of the ancient world, a towering testament to its unparalleled durability, its extraordinary resilience against the ravages of time, and the sheer audacity, the sublime ambition of its original design. Just think of all the magnificent civilizations that have meticulously risen and then inevitably fallen since its completion. The glorious Greeks, the mighty Romans, the sprawling empires of the East and West, all have come and gone, their monuments often crumbling to dust, yet the pyramid endures, a constant, unyielding reminder of the cyclical nature of time, the fleeting impermanence of most human endeavor, starkly contrasted with the monumental permanence of its stone. It has stoically witnessed countless sunrises and sunsets, felt the gentle touch of desert winds for more than 4.5 millennia, and seen the constellations slowly shift across the night sky in their majestic, eternal dance, observing human history unfold beneath its shadow. Its timeless appeal lies not merely in its unfathomable age or its overwhelming size, but in what it profoundly represents to the human spirit. It stands as a profound, inspiring symbol of human ingenuity, of what is truly possible when an entire organized society unites under a singular, monumental, almost divine vision. It eloquently speaks to the transformative power of belief, the unwavering conviction that drove generations of Egyptians to dedicate their lives, their skills, and their very existence to constructing a colossal gateway to eternity for their divine ruler. When you stand before it, or even just contemplate its imposing image from afar, you are intrinsically connected to that deep, ancient past, to the universal human impulse to create something lasting, something truly magnificent that utterly transcends the fragile limitations of a single mortal lifetime. The Great Pyramid invites you to a quiet, contemplative moment, to consider the relentless passage of time, the grand, sweeping narrative of history, and the profound, universal human desires for meaning, for legacy, and for immortality. Its very silence is incredibly eloquent, a haunting whisper of ancient prayers, of long-forgotten rituals, and of the tireless, dedicated labor of those countless individuals who meticulously built it. It is a monument that does not shout its epic stories, but lets them unfold slowly, patiently, inviting you to listen closely to the echoes of the pharaohs and the enduring, unbreakable legacy of a civilization that sought, with stone and spirit, to touch the heavens themselves. In its quiet, majestic presence, it continues to inspire profound awe, prompting you to reflect deeply on your own fleeting place in the vast, unfolding tapestry of time, and on the enduring, transformative power of human dreams.